Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon, and the GSMC Football Podcast is brought to you, as always, by the GSMC Podcast Network. So we're going to have to clear the air right away and get this out of the way because I am angry, I am mad. Those are two of the same words, so I don't know why I said that. But we're going to keep on rolling because I am very upset. But the people talked, and Kayvon is a man of the people. Kayvon listens to what the great listeners have to say. As I always say, I do. So I have to respect y'all's decision, even though I don't like it. And let me be very clear, I do not like the decision that you guys made. But the decision was made, and I have to respect that decision. Does everybody know what decision I am talking about here? I think most of you do, because a lot of you guys voted on the decision. And that is the word solo dolo. All right, we talked about it last episode, which came out on Saturday. Go check that out if you haven't. But if you did, then you partaked in the poll. I had you guys reach out and let me know if you like when I use the word going solo dolo, as I always do. Now, I'm very sad. I'm very disappointed because I felt like that was my trademark. Every up and coming sports broadcaster, which I like to think I am, maybe I'm not that good, but I'm going to say that I am because I like to feel that way. Every one of us, you got to come up with you got to come up with a trademark. And I love the way solo dolo was sounded because I'm going solo, I'm doing it by myself, and you add a little dolo in there. But if you guys remember how this came up, I was recording my Saturday show at my girlfriend Emily's house, and she was studying in the other room, so I'm very loud, so she can hear everything. Right now, my sister's in the other room. Her and her brother-in-law are staying, and her and my brother-in-law are staying with us right now as their house is getting built. Congrats to them. They got their first house, and it's almost ready, so that's awesome. But they can clearly hear me. I mean, my brother-in-law will come in here and be like, you said what about the Giants? Because he's a huge Giants fan. So I talk loud. But anyways, I was talking on Saturday. I was starting the show, and I said my usual, I am your host, Kayvon Izami, going solo dolo. As always, that's my line. And after I finished that segment, I went out to get a glass of water, and Emily said, it's bad. You can't use that. It sounds quirky. It sounds weird. So I said, okay, well, let's let the people talk. Let's let the listeners answer. And I was really hoping a lot of my guys out there were going to back me up so I could win this argument, because we all know how it is, guys, with our women. They're always right. So sometimes it's nice to say, hey, the listeners were with me on this. But I had you guys reach out to me, DM me at GSMC_football, at Kayvon_sports. Most of you guys did it through the at Kayvon_sports, which is great. Just bring everything to that page. That is my page, my own personal page. And not everyone, but the majority of the people said no more solo dolo. I got some hate too. I mean, we got some rough answers. Some people were saying it was stupid. It sounded lame. There was a couple people that said they liked it a lot. We had about 200 people vote on it. And the majority went to no more solo dolo. So, no more solo dolo. That's it. You guys will not hear me do it again. I might mess up here and there and say it once in a while, but I'm going to do my best. I'm definitely not going to start the show off with it because, like I said, even though I love it, I'm the man of the people. The people spoke, and I'm going to listen. Unfortunately, my girlfriend gets to sit there and say she was right, but that is what it is, right? That is what it is. So, this is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon Izami. I am doing this show on my own. How do you like that little twist? Tonight, as I always do. And I hope you guys are excited to join me because I am pumped up because we've got a lot to go over. We have so much going on in the NFL and the college world right now. I don't even know where to start. It took me a little bit extra just for you guys, because I love you guys, to plan this show out because I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be really, really good because we are heading into the most crucial parts of the season. I mean, this is it, guys. We're talking about Week 11. Week 11. We're talking about wild card implications, division implications, fantasy playoffs. Yep, 2 weeks away, fantasy playoff implications. I mean, there is a lot going on. Stats, who's trying to get up the most stats, lead the league in TDs, passing, rushing, yards, receiving, all that stuff. This is when those things really start to get going, and it's so much fun. So much fun. So we've got a great show in store ahead. Like I said, the playoff race in both conferences are fascinating. They are really fascinating. I mean, if you just take a glance, all right, and you look at the AFC, right now in the AFC, for the playoff picture, we have five teams sitting there at 6-3. Technically, we have 6 teams at 6-3, but one of them's leading their division. So we have six. We'll just count that out. So we have 6 teams at 6-3. We've got the Colts leading the division, the AFC South right now at 6-3. The Titans are also 6-3, but if we remember last Thursday, the Colts beat the Titans in Tennessee, so now they own on the tiebreaker head-to-head. The Colts and Titans will play again, though, so Tennessee has a chance to grab that back. But right now, the Colts are at number 4 at 6-3. The Las Vegas Raiders. Say it with me. The Las Vegas Raiders. I told you guys before the season that this team was going to be a playoff team. And they are killing it right now. They are playing great football. They're playing complimentary football. Derek Carr's playing good. Josh Jacobs, boy, that dude is bad. He is a bad man, as Stephen A. likes to say. Darren Waller, top 3 tight end in the league. And their defense is starting to come along. Now, they have some issues on defense. The pass rush is a problem. Max Crosby, though, he's a beast. And the secondary is a problem. But John Gruden is coaching the heck out of these boys. And we have some awesome soundbite later in the show to play about John Gruden. Because remember, John Gruden, Las Vegas Raiders, gave the Kansas City Chiefs their only loss of the season this year. And it was a couple weeks back. Now, this week, Week 11, Sunday Night Football, NBC, 8:20 kickoff, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Michelle Tafoya on the call, baby. Great crew going Kansas City Chiefs, heading into Las Vegas, heading into Sin City to try and get even on the Las Vegas Raiders. I cannot wait for that game. So we've got the Raiders at 6-3. The Miami Dolphins and Mr. Tua, Mr. Lefty, showing up 6-3, 3-0 with Tua as quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick sitting there with his short shorts and his beard. Nice sitting there, fat, happy, probably a little sassy because he's angry that he didn't get that he lost his job. But hey, they are winning and they are playing serious complimentary football. The defense and the special teams is really what's doing it, and Tua is getting better and better by the week. Brian Flores is on the short list of coaches of the year. He is amazing. Brian Flores, I said it last year when he took that pathetic team that was trying to tank to a 5-win season. I said, this guy's legit. And he is showing us that he knows how to put a game plan together each and every week. And that is a good football team right now. So they're sitting at 6-3. The Ravens, 6-3. The Ravens are opposite of what's going on with the Raiders and Dolphins. The Raiders and Dolphins have a green arrow going up. The Ravens have a red arrow going down. Lost to New England Sunday night in a monsoon. Those are, you might as well name those Bill Belichick games, because those are Bill Belichick games. I knew going into that the Patriots would keep it close. I bet the Patriots +7. I gave that out on Saturday. I told you guys that was my bet of the week, which, by the way, we do a bet segment every Saturday, but then I always do one bet of the week. We are killing it with the bet of the week this year, guys. We are absolutely killing it with the bet of the week. We are 8-2 heading into week 11. 8-2 on the bet of the week, baby. Just been absolutely dominating that. Stay tuned. Tune in for those Saturday shows for those bets of the week. Always coming at you. So right now, remember, we have 3 playoff teams, 3 wildcard teams in each conference now. And that's not a COVID thing. That is a NFL thing from here on out. They changed that this offseason. There will be officially 14 teams that make the playoffs, 7 from the NFC and 7 from the AFC. Now, there is, for this COVID year, the NFL decided that if they have to start canceling some games, some pivotal games that could affect the playoff race, then they will expand it just for this year and this year only. Maybe go to 8, maybe even go to 9 teams if they have to. Luckily, we have not had to cancel any games yet. Luckily, the NFL's really been able to mitigate any outbreaks going on in these locker rooms, other than that Tennessee Titans one that we had earlier in the season, and that's been awesome. Huge round of applause, not just to the NFL, but to the players, the executives, the coaches, everyone involved. You guys have been doing a great job, and let's hope we can keep it up, because us fans, we really appreciate it, because we're loving the football that we are getting. So, it's 3 teams. So right now, if the season ended today, you would have the Steelers at 9-0, first in the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs, 8-1, second in the AFC. The Buffalo Bills, 7-3. That's if the season ended today, but watch out. Mr. Tua is right on that behind. He is right on that behind. He's coming up. You got the Bills. The Bills is 7-3. You got the Colts at 6-3. Those are your 4 division winners if the season ended today. The wild card spots would be the Raiders, the Dolphins, and the Ravens. Then, outside looking in, the Browns are 6-3 in that 8th spot, and the Titans are 6-3 in the 9th spot. And then we can also say New England is 4-5 in the 10th spot. They are a bit of a long shot to get in, but you can never say never with Bill Belichick and Cam Newton. If they keep playing the way they're playing, they have a shot. I called them to make the playoffs earlier in the season, and then once they started to lose a couple games, against the Bills, they went on that losing streak. I said it's probably too late. I think it is, but you never know. So most likely we will be down to, think about it. We have, like I said, we've got 6-3 teams right now. These can flip-flop like crazy, and the best part is a lot of these teams play each other. The Dolphins and the Raiders, both sitting there at 6-3, they play each other in week 15, so the second to last week of the season. The Ravens and Browns, they still have to play each other again. The Ravens smacked the Browns in week 1, totally different team than they are now. They were dominant in week 1. They've been going down ever since. The Browns, they're getting healthy. Nick Chubb's back. They lost Odell Beckham, but Nick Chubb is back, and Nick Chubb is a game changer. Now, I don't like Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I think he has a lot of flaws that he needs to fix, but when Kevin Stefanski can run Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt the way he has been, anything can happen with that team. So, when you look at and then, of course, the Colts and the Titans. yes, the Colts are at the 9 spot right now, but if they the Titans are at the 9 spot right now, and the Colts are at the 4, but if they go ahead and beat the Colts in that second game that they play against each other, all of that can change. Plus, the Colts have a tough schedule down the stretch. They've got much easier than the Titans. The Titans have some tough games left, but the Colts schedule down the stretch is much tougher than what the Titans have. So the Colts started off against Green Bay at home this week. I think that's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a shootout. Over-under is at 51. I've already bet the over. I really like that game to be a high-scoring game. I know that the Colts have a good defense, but Aaron Rodgers inside playing, the way he's been playing, and now you put him in nice climate control weather, ooh, baby, he's going to show up. And I think the Colts offense will as well. So I like the over on that one. But all in all, that's a tough game for the Colts, right? So that's a tough one. Then next week, they then have to bounce back and play Tennessee. So they beat Tennessee 2 weeks ago. They get the Packers in between, and then they get Tennessee again. That will be a massive game, a really big game. Then they'll play Houston. They should beat Houston. Then they go to Las Vegas. That's a big game for the wild card spot, just in case they can't win the division. That will be a huge game for the wild card spot. Then they play Houston again, and then they have Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. So that Pittsburgh game. So Green Bay, Tennessee, Vegas, and Pittsburgh. That's 4 tough games left for the Colts. And then you look at the Titans' schedule. The Titans have Baltimore this week. You remember that's the big rematch between the playoff game last year. Ravens were 14-2, looked unstoppable. The Titans came in there with Derrick Henry and straight hit them in the mouth. Derrick Henry pretty much put Earl Thomas in retirement early with that stiff arm he gave him, and we haven't seen Earl Thomas since, except when he had a freak attack to start the season. So that's a game where the Ravens are going to be pissed off. They've been playing terrible, and they are mad at the Titans. We'll see if they can take it out on them, or if the Titans can have a rerun of what they did in the playoff game. So that's a huge one. After that, they have the Colts, but then things start to kind of slow down a bit. Now, these next 3 games, they have the Ravens, the Colts, and the Browns. Those are huge playoff games. Why? Every single one of those teams are fighting for either a division spot or a wild card spot in the AFC. So that all could come down to tiebreaker. All of that right there. So those are 3 huge games for the Titans. If they can win those, or at least go 2-1 in that, then they have Jacksonville and Detroit. That should be 2 wins. Then they go at Green Bay and then at Houston. So after that 3-game stretch, they really should be able to go 3-1 against Jacksonville, Detroit, Green Bay, and Houston to end the season, right? That Week 16 game is a Sunday night game against the Packers too, which is really fun. So that's going to be a very interesting race down the stretch. Now, when it comes to the AFC North, we pretty much think the Steelers have this one locked up. If the Ravens could have beaten the Patriots on Sunday night, it would have been a little bit different, because the Steelers and the Ravens still have to play one more time. They do it on Thanksgiving night, by the way, on NBC. Can't wait for that one. But now, since the Ravens have 3 losses, and one of those losses are against Pittsburgh, it would pretty much take Pittsburgh to have an epic collapse to lose the division. So the Steelers are going to have the division. Now it just becomes with the Steelers, which what we talked about 2 episodes ago. Do they go for the 16-0, or do they decide to try and rest Big Ben a couple games and make sure he's healthy going into it? Because Big Ben is playing some fantastic football. Look, I picked Big Ben to be the comeback player of the year. I said that they were going to be such a good team. I said that they were going to be the best defense in the league, which I think they are. And I said that they were going to come within a game of almost beating out the Ravens for the AFC North. So I kind of shortchanged them a little bit. I predicted them to be good. I just didn't predict them to be this good. But Big Ben is balling out right now. That defense is balling out, but I want him to be healthy. That would be my mindset if I'm a Steelers fan. If I'm a Steelers fan, yes, I get it. The 16-0, it sounds beautiful, right? The only team that's been 16-0 is since the 1972 Dolphins is the 2007 Patriots, right? They went all the way to the Super Bowl and then lost to the Giants. I get it. You want to be that team. You want to make history. But the most important is that ring. And to get that ring, you have to have Big Ben healthy because you are not winning a single playoff game if Mason Rudolph has to come in there. It's just not happening. Not happening at all. So Mike Tomlin has a tough decision on his hands to decide what to do with that. But if I'm him, I am trying to make sure that we go into the playoffs healthy. So that's going to be, so we believe the Steelers have that locked up. Now, the Chiefs sitting there at the number 2 seed, 8-1, been balling lately. That one loss to the Raiders, who are 6-3. Now, that one loss being to the Raiders is crucial because, yes, you do most likely have this division locked up, but it's nowhere near as definitive as the Steelers do because your one loss is to the Raiders, who are hot right now and are 6-3. Yes, you would still have to lose to the Raiders this Sunday night. And if you lose to the Raiders this Sunday night, you would have to lose one more game, and then the Raiders would officially jump you if they won out. I don't see that happening. I think the Raiders will lose a game or two down the stretch here, maybe even more. I think that they do make the playoffs as I predicted, but I don't think they do enough to catch the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs come in there and get even Sunday night, but in a very close game. The Raiders are plus 7.5. I see the Raiders covering that. I think it's going to be a very close game. But that's a close still matchup you got to watch, right? And then the Dolphins. The Dolphins and the Bills are the closest division matchup, but besides the Colts and the Titans. Okay? The Dolphins and the Bills, 7-3, 6-3. A couple weeks ago, we thought that this was the Bills. After they beat the Patriots, we said they got the monkey off their back. They finally beat the team that they couldn't beat in like 4 years. Sean McDermott, great coach. He was 0-6 against Bill Belichick. They beat him. It felt like, okay, they're going to breathe and let some air out, right? Play better football. And they have since. They lost a heartbreaker to Kyler freaking Murray, the beast of all beasts. Gosh, I love watching that guy play. He is something special to watch. Something special to watch. And DeAndre Hopkins, what can you say? I mean, Kyler Murray after that game should have picked up the phone and called Billy O'Brien, who was probably sitting at his home in his little recliner old man chair, maybe with a fat lip in his mouth or something, and was just saying, oh my goodness, how could I trade this guy away? Kyler Murray should pick up the phone and say, hey, Billy, what do you want for Christmas, man? What do you want? You want a puppy? I mean, you want like 2, 3, 4 puppies? You want Santa to come sit on your lap? Like, what do you want, Billy? Because I owe you the biggest Christmas present ever for giving me this receiver for a couple of peanuts off the airport. Seriously, I mean, that's what the Cardinals got this man for, and that is just a crime, and that's why Billy O'Brien got fired. But Kyler Murray, pick up the phone, man. Go and thank that man. He's already sad enough. Give him a thank you. At least tell him you appreciate that you gave him one of the best, if not the best, receivers in the game. So you've got, that was an awesome game, by the way. But you've got the Bills 7-3, the Dolphins 6-3, won 3 in a row. They still have to play each other one more time. That is a very close division race, and that's the one that I am most intrigued by. You know why? Because they play each other week 16. The final week of the season. Can you guys imagine if we have that game for the AFC East? For the first time in 10 years, someone else wins the AFC East that's not named the Patriots, and to find out who it's going to be, you have a last second week 16 game to win or take all. Woo! I'm getting chills thinking about that right now. And you know what? So many great storylines coming down the stretch of this NFL season. When we came into this season, we thought pandemic, no offseason, barely any time for these guys to get together, no preseason. It's going to be terrible football. And we've had some rough injuries, and that sucked. But the football has been amazing. And we thank you players, we thank you coaches, we thank the NFL for that because it has been awesome. And the storylines, guys and girls, to end this season is going to be terrific. And you know what's the best part? I just laid all that out to you, and that was only the AFC, baby. We still got to talk about the NFC, and we are going to do that in this show. But unfortunately, all of this hype that you hear in my voice right now, this is good hype. This is happy hype. This is pumped up hype. It's going to change. It's going to change when we get back from the break to a more frustrated, disappointed, vexed, irritated, and even angry hype. Because what I saw on Monday night for the 15th billionth time in a row, I am sick of watching that Chicago Bears offense. It's pathetic, and I'm going to tell you, if there is anything to do that can change it, if there is, I don't know, but if there is, I'm going to tell you what that might be. But let's hope during the break I can figure something out, because that offense might be worse than the New York Jets. I said it. And if you're going to want to hear why I said it, you're going to want to come back after this break, and I'll explain it all. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Come right back on the other side, and we'll get into it from here.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is segment number 2, and I am Kayvon. I am your host. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. Hope everyone's having a great day wherever you are, however you're listening, and whenever you're listening. We appreciate you for tuning into the show. The results are in. The people have spoken. Solo Dolo will no longer be used, other than to tell you guys I am not using it, because you guys have spoken, and I listen. So thank you to everyone for voting, for DMing me, letting me know. I do appreciate that, even though you guys gave me the answer that I did not want to hear. But I still appreciate that. And look, we've got a packed store. I was sweating. I had to, I get really cold, so I'm a super cold-blooded person, right? My friends, my family, everyone makes fun of me because you'll see me like 60-degree weather, 70-degree weather in the house with a jacket on. Like that's just what I do. I'm always cold unless it's the summertime. If it's the summertime, then I'm good. But once it comes that fall, springtime, I still am cold. It's so annoying. So, I'm always in here with a couple layers on doing this show. And if I get really hyped up on a segment, really into a segment like I just did that last one, the layers have to start coming off a little bit, It's a good thing I get to do it in my own room, Doesn't matter how many layers I take off because that's just me sitting here. Fortunately, for all you out there listening that just might have got a little excited, I am cold-blooded, as I just said, so I never can take too many layers off there, Just saying. But I got pumped up because that was a great segment talking about the AFC wildcard spot. And stay tuned because we are then going to talk about the NFC in just a little bit. But there's so many other great storylines that I can't wait to break down for you guys on this show. I mean, think about this. We have a huge So it's not often that we get big Thursday night games, right? Usually the NFL, because they're Thursday night games, the players hate them, the coaches hate them because it's such a quick turnaround. You're playing NFL professional football. It's really hard to get your body ready from Sunday to Sunday, let alone Sunday to Thursday. So nobody likes these games other than us, the fans, us, the media, because it's great. It's something on TV. It's something to talk about, right? Well, obviously, the NFL, they usually don't give us the best games. They usually make it like division games where it's, it's kind of like, or conference games where it's like the Jets and the Broncos or the Titans and the Jaguars, stuff like that, where it's nice for us because we get football on, but it's never really that great of a game. Well, lately, these games have been huge. I mean, 2 weeks ago, it wasn't a great game, but it was a big storyline game, right? We had the Green Bay Packers going to San Francisco for their big revenge game after what the Packers did to them in the NFC Championship game last year. That was a blowout, but still a cool storyline. And then last week was awesome. It was the Colts, the Titans, big-time game for the division, and that's why they're both at 6-3, but the Colts are actually in 4th, and they are in the playoffs as we speak, while the Titans are not because they won that game. So that's huge. Now we look at this Thursday night game, and it is a massive game, guys. And it's not just a massive game. It is an entertaining game. We have the Arizona Cardinals going to Seattle. We're talking about the 6-3 Arizona Cardinals that have just been on a tear. Won last week because Kyler Murray, all 5'9", running full speed to the sidelines, throwing across his body to the beast DeAndre Hopkins, catching a last-second Hail Mary against the Buffalo Bills, puts them at 6-3 against the Seattle Seahawks team, who is also now 6-3 after losing the last couple of games and really starting to get questioned. What's going on? Russell Wilson started off the season just on a tear, saying that I'm winning the MVP. I'm going to do everything I can this year because I haven't gotten votes the last couple years. I've been screwed out of it, which he's right. He has. Not screwed out of winning it, but he hasn't. The fact that Russell Wilson has never gotten an MVP vote is just comical and makes no sense and to me at all. But Pete Carroll came out and said, I'm going to let him cook this year. I'm going to let him go off. And we all started to think, I said this. I said, well, why is Pete Carroll doing this now? Because the Seahawks played the Falcons the first game of the season. And I noticed right off the bat, they're doing something different. And it was they were letting Russ do his thing from the start instead of starting that in the third quarter when the game is tight or they're down and they have to let Russ do the magic to come back. No, they said, Russ, go cook right away. But then I started to think, okay, well, why? What's changed? I know Russ has kind of expressed that he wants to be able to do that earlier, so maybe did that get in their head? They want to make Russ happy, but now it's starting to come out. The Seahawks, Pete Carroll, the John Snyder, the GM, the team, they realize that their defense is absolutely atrocious. And the only way that they're going to win the games this year is if Pete Carroll lets Russell Wilson unleash the beast. And that's what he's done. And he has carried this team as far as he can. But now you're seeing when they play teams with good defenses like the Los Angeles Rams, who absolutely locked them down last week. I mean, they locked them down. They didn't let DK Metcalf do anything. A total of 2 catches on 4 targets for 28 yards. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, he's such a good cornerback. He's really a great, and Aaron Donald leading the defense up front. They're a great defense. The Rams are a very interesting team because they're known for Sean McVay and that offense, but that offense does some good big plays here and there, but that defense is special. And they've been fun to watch for sure. So you saw that, right? You saw what they were able to lock that team down, and Russell Wilson can't do everything. I mean, he's not just, he is human, and he showed us that. Now they've lost 2 in a row, and they were sitting from a team that was looking like they were the best team in the NFC to now being the last team in the wild card spot. And I told you guys, I said, I don't like this team to go very far in the playoffs because of how bad their defense is. Look, your quarterback can be the best quarterback ever. But when it comes playoff football, when it comes December, January, you better be able to do two things, and that's run the ball and play good defense. And right now, they haven't been able to do either because Chris Carson's been out the last 4 weeks or so, and their defense has been the worst and on record to be historically the worst ever. So they're now 6-3, while the Cardinals are on the opposite end. They have that green arrow going up, and they just won. They're super hyped up. They actually beat the Seahawks 2 weeks ago on Sunday Night Football when they were trailing the whole game until the end. Kyler Murray doing Kyler Murray things, who, by the way, he is my lead dog for MVP right now. What he is doing has been just tremendous. They play each other this Thursday night, which is a massive game. Huge implications on the NFC West. Huge implications on the playoff race. It really is a huge game, guys. We should be lucky. We should be super happy, and I cannot wait to watch that game. It's going to be a really fun one. So we're pumped up that the NFL has now given us two big-time Thursday night games in a row, and we can't wait to watch that. So there's a lot to talk about here. Also, rematch, like I said, Raiders-Chiefs. John Gruden talking some noise. Andy Reid talking some noise. Those two have a history. They used to coach together. It's Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr. What's going to happen? Are the Chiefs looking to come in and just beat them down and get revenge? Are the Raiders going to be able to hold on to their own like they did last time? Can't wait to see that one. You got the Ravens. The Ravens are slipping. What is going on with the Ravens? I'm going to tell you guys. It's something. It's something very big that's happening with them. I don't know if they're going to be able to change it. All of those are great storylines, right? Just great storylines. Really are. And then you've got a interesting storyline. I would say a storyline that is not positive because we never like to see anyone get hurt. But it's also exciting because it lets us see Mr. Eat a W, Mr. Interception, Mr. Hip thruster in the end zone or whatever he was doing last week, Mr. Jameis Winston. It's time to see him. Drew Brees, couple broken ribs, a punctured lung. Ooh, tough stuff. We hope he's all right. Of course, everybody that listens to this show knows that I am no Saints fan, but I never wish for injury. So this is a critical moment for Jameis Winston's career, and it's a very positive moment for the Saints organization. And a lot of you guys are listening saying, how in the heck does that make sense, Kayvon? They just lost their Hall of Fame quarterback, and you're saying this is a positive moment? Well, just wait. I'll explain. Because it's interesting. It's very interesting, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. And then there's another storyline. A storyline that is infuriating. A storyline that is just keeps on going the same way and nothing's changing. No matter how much things they do, nothing has changed. And you know what that is? That's the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears and their pathetic, anemic offense. So let me start here first, all right? Because I want to congratulate the Minnesota Vikings, who have now won 3 in a row. They're 4-5. They started 1-5. They got their pants beat off them by the Atlanta Falcons in Minnesota. They go on their bye week. They've come back and they've won 3 in a row. And they look great. And last night they went into Chicago on Monday Night Football and they beat the Bears. And it started a little late, 1-5, but it's not too late. And more importantly, the most important thing about last night was it wasn't just Dalvin Cook. The way they've won these last 3 games, Dalvin Cook has been the best running back in the league. He's been amazing. If anyone has them on their fantasy team, they know. But they did it with a balanced offense. You saw Adam Thielen, dominate. You saw Adam Thielen dominate. And the other day we saw Stephon Diggs have a great game against Arizona. He caught that, what he thought at the time was a game winner until we saw Kyler Murray do his magic. And we're looking at him. We're talking about him as one of the best receivers in the league, Stephon Diggs. And then we remember the Vikings traded him. And they traded him to the Buffalo Bills. They used that first-round pick that the Bills gave him to take Justin Jefferson, the rookie receiver out of LSU, this year in the draft. And boy, has he been good. Especially in this rookie wide receiver class where we see guys like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy playing well, and Henry Ruggs has had a couple big games. It's a great wide receiver class. But Jefferson has been the best, and it's not even close in my opinion. And the Eagles, the Packers, they should feel like complete idiots. Idiots for not taking this guy. No clue why you guys passed on this guy. But it's paid off well for the Vikings. They were not dumb. They took him. And it's worked very well for them. Last night, Monday night, he goes for 8 catches, 135 yards. Continues to have this incredible season. Almost under the radar, too, because a lot of people wrote this Vikings team off. But overall, I look at this guy, 42 catches on 54 targets, already 770 yards on the season. And last night, Cousins was going to him like he was his number one receiver. It's very rare. It's very rare to trade a player like Stephon Diggs and then find a replacement as quick as they did. You don't see that happen. You don't see that so quick. And look, I'm not saying Justin Jefferson, he's been great. But he's not Stephon Diggs. And he might not be Stephon Diggs for a couple of years. But he sure is on his way to something special. And I thought last night, getting those guys involved, their team is starting to become a team that you don't want to face. They're getting hot. They're rolling. It might be too late to make the playoffs. I don't know. It really might be. The NFC is so tough. It's loaded. But they have a chance. And they're playing great football. And they played good football last night. They played okay. But they beat the Bears. They played okay, and they beat the Bears. And that's not their fault. They play who's in front of them. But what I took away from last night was how terrible the Bears were. And that's the main thing I took away from this game. Let me be very clear, because, hey, if any of these, Bears players, if you're listening, I know some of you are. I want to be very clear. The defense was not terrible. The special teams was not terrible. The offense was absolutely horrendous. Horrendous. And see, this is the thing. When you're a free-falling team, when you're a team that just keeps on losing, you started off great and you just keep losing, right? They're on a 4-game losing streak now. You're a team that's struggling mightily, especially offensively like the Bears are. You have to go all out. You have to do something to shake things up. And the Bears have tried that. Look, I give them credit. They've tried everything. Head coach gave away the play calling to his offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor. That was awful. Nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. The play calling was worse last night than it has been. Then they come out in the second half, and to start off the second half, Cordell Patterson, who is so good and has been so good for so long, he runs the kickoff back for a TD. It was like 104 yards or something like that to start the second half. So I'm thinking there, okay, here we go. What's it called? The bear down, time to get excited. Here we go. Let's get something going. We got nothing. And then, you know what happened the rest of the second half after that kickoff return? And if you're a Bears fan, you really might want to plug your ears here because I know your eyes are already shot after watching that terrible game. So I don't want you to hurt your ears now too. So you might want to plug your ears. After the kickoff return for a touchdown by the Chicago Bears offense, this is what happened. 3 and out and a punt. 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 Turnover on downs and turnover on downs. That was the second half after the kickoff return. The defense outscored the offense again, and this is on a night where you're at home and you're on national television, which your next game will be as well. You had a new coach calling plays. Your starting Pro Bowl center was back in the lineup. You got a special teams touchdown. You were playing against one of the 2 worst passing defense on this planet. The Minnesota Vikings passing defense is bottom 2 in the league. Your own defense created multiple turnovers for you. The kicker didn't miss. The punter was great. You were playing against a running back that before Monday night, was on a complete tear, running all over everybody he faced, and your defense locked him down. And you were playing against a quarterback who is 0-1 million in Monday Night Football. Kirk Cousins has literally never won a Monday Night Football game going into Monday night. And in the fourth quarter, when the whole season, the whole world, everybody was watching, everything was on the line, the Chicago Bears had 1.4 yards per play in the fourth quarter. 1.4. It's a shame. It's terrible. And I think next weekend, the offense might be better because they'll be on a bye, and they'll probably do something more efficient on a bye than they did last night, Monday night. And at one point in the fourth quarter, they had 14 total yards of offense, guys. I mean, you can't write this stuff up. 14 total yards of offense on one point in the fourth quarter. It's just not there. It's dead. It's mind-blowing. So now you go on a bye, but the unfortunate question becomes, how do you make this better? Because they've tried literally everything. They gave up the play calling duties to someone else. It was worse. They have tried making the plays more friendly for Nick Foles. Nothing's changed. So what can you do? And I'll tell you what you can do. It's very simple. You have to bench Nick Foles and put Mitchell Trubisky back in. And anybody that just right away said, what? You are not watching the game. Yes, Mitchell Trubisky is not a good quarterback. But neither is Nick Foles, everybody. Wake up, okay? He had a hot playoff run with one of the best teams created in the last 5, 6, 7 years. That roster that the Eagles had was absurd. It was all stacked with Pro Bowlers all across the board. And he got hot, and congrats to him. But overall, Nick Foles is not a good quarterback. He never has been one, and he never will. And Mitchell Trubisky, at least, he's young, and most importantly, and this is when everyone needs to listen up, because this is an argument that nobody can debate. Mitchell Trubisky at least can use his legs to run. Nick Foles is a statue in that pocket. If you break any sort of pressure near Nick Foles, you might as well play two-hand touch because he's going to fall down right away. He will not move. He is a statue. At least Mitchell Trubisky can use his legs. And when you have an offense that doesn't have great pieces, that doesn't have that good of an O-line, that has an awful running game, the best thing for that offense is to be able to bring some type of unpredictability to it. And the only way to do that is with a quarterback that can use its legs. And the reason that is because Mitchell Trubisky can do two things. When the pocket collapses on him and the play is starting to run dead and the receivers aren't open, he can use his legs to do two things. One, run around and buy time for a great, and I mean great, guys. Allen Robinson is one of the best receivers in the game. He is so good, but Nick Foles can't get him the ball. Anthony Miller is a speedster out of Memphis. He is a good wide receiver, but Nick Foles can't get him the ball. So Mitchell Trubisky can at least run around and buy those receivers time to get open, or he can run with his legs and take off for the first down. Or at least pick up a couple yards on the way. At least bring some type of dynamic feeling to the offense where the defense has to say, hey, we need to put a linebacker to spy on Mitchell Trubisky because he could take off at any second. No, right now with Nick Foles, they are bringing everyone because he cannot move. He cannot move. He is a statue in the pocket. He is slower than Tom Brady. And that is slow. Okay? The only way, and it might be too late. It really might be. But the only way that the Chicago Bears have any chance of fixing what is going on is you have to bench Nick Foles and bring in Mitchell Trubisky. If Matt Nagy cannot put his pride away and say, I got this one wrong, I should have never benched Mitchell Trubisky in the first place. He was 3-0. I don't know why I did, but I did, and I got it wrong, and I accept that, and I'm going to take it back and now bring Mitchell Trubisky back in. If you can't do that, Matt Nagy, then you deserve to lose your job, okay? Because when times are tough and pressure is on, which is definitely on right now for Matt Nagy, and same with everyone else involved in that coaching staff and the front office, you have to be able to look yourself in the eye, look yourself in the mirror and say, what do I have to do to fix it? I don't care what it is. What do I have to do? And if Matt Nagy isn't able to do that, then he needs to go. Mitchell Trubisky, get him back in the game. Show us what you can do with your legs. Get the ball to Allen Robinson and just sit back and watch. Get the ball to Jimmy Graham and just let him do his thing. Get the ball to anybody else and let them do their thing. Okay? It's not a terrible offense. It's just bad play calling and a very, very, very bad quarterback in Nick Foles. And I hate to just bash on Nick Foles like this, but there's too much tape out there to say otherwise, guys. Okay? You cannot just look at one playoff run of 5 games and say, okay, well, look at him here. Yeah, no, you can say that if he's only played 15 games total in his career. Nick Foles has played far too many games for us to be able to say, okay, these games are an outlier, but those Super Bowl games, those playoff games, that's the real Nick Foles. No, those games are the outlier. Those games are the anomalies. The games we're seeing now, that is the real Nick Foles. And if the Bears cannot accept that and bring back Mitchell Trubisky, and again, Mitchell Trubisky is not great, so it might not get any better, but at least it's going to be a more entertaining offense. At least it's going to bring some energy to the players. At least it's going to give you guys a chance when the play breaks down and all heck goes to loose, he can run around and do something. If I can see that, I know all my great listeners can see that because you guys are smart. I'm pretty sure Matt Nagy and the Chicago Bears can see that too. After this bye week, we better hear that Nick Foles is out and Mitchell Trubisky is in. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, I told you guys, Drew Brees is out. Jameis Winston is in. What does this mean for Jameis Winston? And what does this mean for the Saints organization? I'm going to tell you guys. And the answer is very, very interesting. We've got Mr. Eat a W, Mr. Hip Thruster, Mr. Steal Your Crab Legs is back in business, baby. We're going to talk about him next after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon Izami. Hope everyone's having a lovely day as we enter quarter number 3, segment number 3. What a show it has been so far. Over here sweating, hot, getting all up in the takes. Just really pouring it out today. I hope you guys enjoy that because I'm getting into it. I was super pumped up. Segment 1. Segment 2 was a little down because I had to talk about the anemic and atrocious Bears offense that we've been seeing lately. But now I'm getting back up because now we've got a great segment coming up here. A lot to talk about, but we're going to get to this Drew Brees situation. Jameis Winston coming in, which is going to be super exciting. Remember, we got a big game Thursday night, NFC West, implications on the line, playoff implications on the line. Arizona Cardinals head up north to Seattle, baby, to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Man, just imagine if there was going to be fans in the stands. Imagine if there would be fans in the stands for this game. That Seattle stadium would be rocking. They played a couple weeks ago. It was a fantastic game. Really in line for one of the best games of the season until last week when Arizona played another fantastic game against the Buffalo Bills. But it was a good one. It went to overtime, and the Cardinals ended up winning in overtime after pretty much being down the entire game. So really cool to see them be super resilient and show that they can come back for a big win. And look, I'm going to be honest. The Arizona Cardinals have the much better roster. The Arizona Cardinals are created as a team way better than Seattle. What Seattle has is Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and hopefully they'll get Chris Carson back. That's what they have going for them, and more in particular, Russell Wilson, who's been phenomenal. But these last couple weeks, it's starting to catch up to him. Look, Russell is human, as great as he is, and he has been fantastic. He's been putting this team on his shoulders all season. I mean, you remember, they didn't lose a game until a couple weeks ago, and now they've lost, 3 in their last, 4 games. So they've been on a bit of a funk, but it's because Russell's probably exhausted because he has to exuberate every single inch of his talent, of his play to even get the Seahawks able to be in a game or win a game because that defense is so bad. I mean, I do not know how their defensive coordinator is still standing. I don't know how he still has a job. It has been terrible. And I get it. Look, this is Pete Carroll's defense. And let me be very clear because I am someone that has watched Pete Carroll's style of defense, his schematic plan, front and center for the last 6 years with Dan Quinn as my Atlanta Falcons head coach. Dan Quinn, for those of you guys that don't know, he came from the Pete Carroll tree. He was the defensive coordinator for Pete Carroll when they had the Legion of Boom. They won the Super Bowl. They lost the other Super Bowl back the following year, but they went back-to-back Super Bowls. But that was when they had the talent. They had the Legion of Boom. They had some true Hall of Famers. Bam Bam Cam Chancellor, one of the best safeties I've seen in person. Richard Sherman, one of the best cornerbacks of this decade. They had Earl Thomas, one of the best safeties of this decade. They had some really good talent. Really good talent. KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner. I mean, they were stacked, and Bobby's still there, and he's really the only bright spot for this defense. But the thing about the Pete Carroll scheme, it's done in the NFL. It does not work anymore in the NFL. Why? What the Pete Carroll scheme does is it pretty much tells you we're going to let you do everything in front of us. Now, Kayvon, what do you mean by that? Okay, so those of you guys that are listening, you can't see me. I wish you could because sometimes I can explain it better with just the way I talk and show my hand signals. But what it is the defense is going to let everything happen in front of them. Nothing over the top of them. So they're not trying to give up any big play, any deep play. They want to let you get your yards, but then it's all about making sure you're good enough to tackle, you wrap them up, you get them down, no extra yards. So, in other words, running backs that are really good at catching the ball, they thrive against this defense because the defense lets you toss, short, quick throws, slants, curl outs, quick throws where the running back, wide receiver, running back comes out of the flat, drop it off to him, let him pick up a couple yards, but do not give up the big play. That's the whole method for this defense. The problem is they still are giving up the big play, and they aren't tackling well. So the only way that this defense works is if you have the horses, if you have the dudes, the dogs, to be able to put it into play. Does that make sense? Like, the reason why it worked so well when they won the Super Bowl and when they were dominant for those couple years is because they had some of the best players of this decade on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you cannot overlook that. But when you start to lose those players and you don't have the talent, and most importantly, you don't have the pass rushing ability, because when you don't have the pass rushing ability, it leaves no pressure on the opposing quarterback, so it gives them time to set up their throw, to set up their play. So when you don't have that, this coverage, this scheme, it does not work. It's why Dan Quinn got fired from the Falcons, because in the beginning, it was working because he had a lot of the defensive pieces. And over the years, the team would get better as they would go, but they would always start out slow. And that is not going to work with Seattle, and it didn't work with Atlanta. And that's why Dan Quinn is fired. And Pete Carroll's not going to get fired or anything, but he's got to change this up, because this system, this schematic plan, it's old. It's ancient. It does not work in the modern NFL anymore. The quarterbacks are too good. The offensive play calling is too good. The weapons are too good. It just does not work unless you're able to have a cast of Hall of Famers on your defensive side of the ball, like the Seattle Seahawks and the Legion of Boom were able to have a couple of years back. And because of that, it's all on Russell Wilson's shoulders, and as great as he is, he's human. And there's only so much you can take at once. So it's going to be a great game. It's going to be an interesting game, but I am not sold, and I haven't been sold all season on the Seattle Seahawks. Don't get me wrong, they'll make the playoffs. They might even win a game, but when we talk about Super Bowl contenders, and real quick, Jamal Adams, they gave up 2 first-round picks for you. I know you've been banged up a little bit, but you've been playing terrible. You haven't helped the defense out at all. Again, I know you've been banged up. I'm not faulting you for that. That happens. But they gave up 2 first-round picks for you. You got to step it up. All right, let's move on to the New Orleans Saints here. And really, really excited to talk about this. I mean, listen. Hide your W's. Hide your crab legs. All you grocery stores out there in New Orleans, hide your crab legs. Hide those. Now, usually during this week, I would not be saying the name of New Orleans. We call them Stinky Town, us Falcons fan. This is huge week for us, all right? New Orleans Saints week is rivalry week. And in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, this is the best rivalry in the NFL. See, you don't have that many rivalries in the NFL. It's not like college football where you have these super intense rivalries. It's because it's the NFL. Everyone's good. Everyone has talent for the most part. It's hard. But the Falcons Saints, this has been going out back for a long, long time. The two cities don't like each other. The two fans base don't like each other. The two coaches don't like each other. And the players do not like each other. I mean, that is a known fact. So during this week, we call them Stinky Town. We don't even say the name New Orleans, but I have to be professional. So for the purposes of being professional and doing this show, sometimes it's hard, but I have to. So I will break my own rules, and I will call them by their name this week, but just know it's eating me up a little bit inside, all right? Because this is a big week for us Falcons fans, and I can't wait for that game. But, hide your W's, hide your crab legs, because Mr. Jameis Winston is coming out. And we all know he likes to steal little crab legs here and there. We all know he likes to eat a little W on his fingers here and there. Now he's doing a little hip thruster in the end zone. The guy is a weird, weird dude. It's a weird dude. Number 1 overall draft pick 2014. Played his time out in Tampa Bay. Clearly did not work out. He becomes a free agent. Nobody wants him. So he signs with the New Orleans Saints for a backup role for $1 million. Hoping that what happened to Teddy Bridgewater last year would happen to him. We'll get into that, but let's start here. Has anybody actually broken their ribs before? Anybody out there? You know, have you had a broken rib or a couple broken ribs before? Let me tell you something. It is the most painful feeling in the world. I mean, there are not many injuries that are worse in terms of pain and not being able to do anything to heal other than time. I mean, you can't actually speed up the process of healing broken ribs like you can with other things, right? You can't do anything about it. You can't wrap up your ribs. You can't, get surgery or anything like that. When you have broken ribs, it's just there. And the only thing that's going to fix it is time. I broke a couple of my ribs before. It was a tubing accident behind the boat. I was up in my buddy's lake house in the Poconos, and he was driving the boat, and, I was talking some trash. We were younger here, telling him he can't throw me off the tube. I'm too good. You know how it is. And I was nasty at tubing, always holding on. Nobody could throw me off. Well, my friend takes it a little serious, hits up a huge wave. I'm on the tube with my other buddy. When we get hit this wave, we go flying up in the air, and our bodies land on each other while hitting the water. So my body hit the water, and then my friend landed on me right after that and smashed a couple ribs in. And I kid you not, worst pain ever. I had to fly home the next day from Poconos to Raleigh, North Carolina. Not a far flight, about an hour 30 minutes. But it was terrible. I mean, you can't cough. You can barely move. It hurts. I was sleeping on the ground because it hurt to just lay flat. So I had to sit up a little bit. I mean, it is the worst pain that you can't do anything to help, right? So I know how that feels. And I'm sure that Drew Brees is in even worse of a condition because he also has a punctured lung, which I have no clue about, but that sounds awful as well. But Brees is a tough guy, man. I mean, I don't know if you guys knew this, but not only did Brees just break his ribs this week, he broke a couple last week. And then he played this week with a couple broken ribs and then ended up breaking three more this week. So that is a tough guy. I mean, everybody knows how I feel about the Saints. I do not like them, but I have respect for Brees as a player and as a human as well. He's a good guy. He's a charitable guy, and he's a tough guy. I'll give him that because this is super impressive to be able to do that. But now that he has, a total of 5 broken ribs and a punctured lung, it's time to sit out for a little bit, Brees. It's time to relax, all right? Let those babies heal before you come back. So what ends up happening now, and a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy when I ask this question, but before you rush to answer, before you rush to call me an idiot, I want you to think about it. Mull it over, okay? Drew Brees getting injured, while very unfortunate, and we wish the best for him and a speedy recovery and all that. But the question becomes, is this actually the best thing for the Saints? Again, don't answer right away. Don't scream in your phone. Don't scream to your radio that I'm an idiot. This guy Kayvon at it again, being stupid. Just hold on a minute. Think about it. And let me explain why I asked that. Most of us think this. Most of us think this is it for Drew Brees, right? This is his last season. I think majority of people believe that it might not be, he's done. He's going to retire after this year. Of course, he could come back, but as of now, most people believe this is it. He even said that this is it. He already has a job lined up with Fox, which, by the way, I think he's going to be a really good broadcaster. He's very, witty. He's intellectual, good at talking, good communicator. Like, he'll be a good broadcaster for sure. So he already has a job lined up. Now, that doesn't mean he can back out of it. Jason Witten had a job. He backed out. So it could happen, but the majority, all signs are pointing to this being it for Drew Brees, right? So if Drew Brees is to retire, and let's say he does, let's say he is to retire, and let's say he did not get hurt. All right, let's say he is playing this week and he is all good. Hypothetically here, okay? Follow along with me. Now, you're saying, what are you talking about? For the quarterback position for the Saints, right? They have Drew Brees, they have Jameis Winston, and they have Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill and Drew Brees are their backups. Both are unproven pieces. So you're making speculations that either Taysom Hill, which I do not think is a starting QB in this league, and I have said this why on this show before. Back in the offseason, we did a whole show on this. But to make it quick, the reason Hill is so good right now is because he isn't being game planned for by the opposing team week in and week out. He's not being game planned for as the starting QB. That has to make that a starting QB that has to make all the throws throughout the entire game. It's much easier to come in for a couple plays a game while the defense is on their heels and not expecting what is going to happen. That is why Taysom Hill is so special in his role right now. Does that make sense? Maybe he could be a good QB full-time, but there's a reason why, and I get that they paid him, but guys, wake up and smell the coffee. For all you Taysom Hill truthers that he's a legit QB, and I get it, the Saints and Sean Payton, they pump that out of their organization all the time. Oh, we love this guy. Yeah, you love this guy as a Swiss Army knife. But if you really loved him that much as a starting QB, why in the 2 years in a row have you gone and signed Teddy Bridgewater, who is a legit starting QB, and then Jameis Winston, who some people think can go back to being a legit starting QB? You don't go and sign two guys like that back-to-back years if you think you have a gem in Taysom Hill, all right? Taysom Hill is special because he comes in at unpredictable moments and he does quick plays, throws it a little bit, runs it a little bit. It keeps the defense off guard, on their heels, because they aren't game planning for it every single day leading up into that week. Everything changes when they start to do that. So that right there is why I don't believe in Taysom Hill as an every down quarterback, as a starting quarterback. I think he's really good at what he does, and I think he needs to stay in that role. So that then becomes the question of, what do you have in Jameis Winston? Because as we all know, Jameis has a ton of questions around him as well. I mean, the last thing, that's why he's a backup right now. The last thing we remember Jameis for, other than eating his fingers, is being the first QB ever to throw 30 picks and 30 touchdowns in the same season. 30 interceptions in one season. So we don't know about Jameis Winston. Yes, we all know he's got some raw talent. We all love the raw talent. That's why he's the number one pick in the draft. But we don't know if he is able or is going to be able to overcome the true flaws that he has. The flaws that had him on the open market and not one team was willing to pay him starting quarterback money. So then let's go back to my question. All right, you following along here? We're doing this in pieces. Let's go back to my question. Remember that question I asked at the beginning. Is this actually good for the New Orleans Saints? The answer is yes. Because the Saints now get answers. The Saints get to find out who Jameis is in their system. See, that is the key here. Just because Jameis was a Pez machine, just handing out interceptions left and right in Tampa, does not mean he will be that with the Saints. And that is what Sean Payton is hoping for. And Sean Payton now gets to find out what that answer is. Because the flaws I'm alluding to, obviously, is he can't protect the football. That is the flaw. That is the big circle, the big asterisk, the big question mark around Jameis Winston. All right? Now, throughout the history of football, we have had big-time QBs throw numerous interceptions, but they were always able to be productive as well. See, that's the key thing. We haven't seen Jameis being able to do both of those. The point where his positives are so positive that it outweighs his negatives. I mean, we have seen that from guys like Kurt Warner, who's a Hall of Famer, even Terry Bradshaw to an extent, Brett Favre, even guys from this decade, the last couple decades, Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning. But all of those guys were also able to put together numerous winning seasons, and even some of them won Super Bowl titles, right? For the most part. But that was also a different time. I know Rivers is still playing and Eli just retired the other year, but if you look around the NFL now at the quarterback position, what do you see? You don't see guys throwing 18, 19, 20, 25, 30 interceptions in a year and keeping their job for very long. You just don't see that happening. The game has continually evolved to the point where we see guys like Aaron Rodgers throw 30 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And we all think, well, that's got to be our quarterback. That's what our quarterback needs to be. The quarterback position has just gotten too good where we can't stand someone. It's so frustrating to see someone throw 30, 25, 30 interceptions in a year. It just puts your team in so much of a problem, of a debacle. But what Jameis does is he takes risk. Right? That's his thing. He takes risk. He's a risk taker. And I think that we have this idea in our heads that he can be coached out of taking those risks. I know that's what Sean Payton's thought process was when they went and signed him. They thought, okay, well, let me try it. And Bruce Arians, he really couldn't do it because Bruce Arians is the epitome of a risk taker. He is Jameis Winston as a coach. He's feeding into it. You know? And yes, you're feeding into this is his biggest weakness, so to speak, right? So Bruce Arians was honestly making it worse for him. While yes, he made him throw hella yards, throw lots of touchdowns because he was the whole no risk it, no biscuit mentality, but it also got him in more danger with his interceptions. Sean Payton is not so much that, okay? So I think Sean Payton believes he has a better opportunity to eradicate or fix those flaws. Because with Bruce Arians, it's that whole, like I said, no risk it, no biscuit type mentality. Not with Sean Payton. Sean Payton is going to say, okay, let's find an advantage, right? What do you do well? What can I game plan for? All right, now let's make these guys look foolish and use our advantages best that we can and find ways to win games. That's what Sean Payton's strengths are. So I do think this is actually a quote-unquote blessing in disguise, and I put that in air quotes here because, again, nobody getting hurt is a blessing in disguise. I don't care what team, nobody getting hurt is a blessing, right? That's not. We don't ever want anyone getting hurt, not at all. So that's why I put that in air quotes because it's a blessing in disguise for the Saints in the future. Again, we would much rather have Drew Brees be healthy and not have to worry about any of this. Especially me as a Falcons fan. I don't want them to find out their future. But now they get a chance to find out what Jameis is. And we saw them do the same thing with Teddy Bridgewater last year. He filled in for Drew Brees. You do well on a team that is supposed to do well on both sides of the ball. You end up parlaying that into a nice free agent contract like Teddy Bridgewater did with the Panthers. Now Jameis has that exact same opportunity. But the question now becomes, what does this mean for Jameis? How much pressure is on Jameis? And is this possibly his last chance? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want you guys to hear what I have to say about Jameis because this is so interesting. And you guys are going to want to watch his games on Sunday for this reason and this reason alone. We'll be right back. This is the GSMC Football Podcast, coming right back after the break.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
This is the GSMC Football Podcast. We are into quarter number four, segment number 4. You all know what to do. Make me proud. I know those 4 fingers are up. Everyone has the 4 fingers up as we head into the final quarter of this beautiful Tuesday show. We thank you for listening wherever you are, however you're listening, and whenever you're listening. We always appreciate it. Remember, even though this is a podcast and we talk about games, you still can listen to it a couple days after it comes out because we're breaking, especially the Tuesday shows where we're breaking down games coming up on Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, talking about those games and the biggest storylines going on. So always give it a listen, give it a like, subscribe, comment, good or bad, whatever, just do it because we appreciate that and it really does mean the world to us. As we were talking about before we went to break here, as we come into segment number 4, quarter number 4, last segment of the show, let's finish strong. Let's finish with a couple of tutties into the end zone. What we were talking about is Drew Brees got hurt, right? Couple broken ribs, tough guy. Played a week with those couple broken ribs, played this week with it, got slammed to the ground by one of the 49er defenders, ended up breaking 3 more, punctured lung. I mean, really tough guy. He hung it out. He didn't play anymore, but he stood on the sideline. He kept his helmet on for him to be able to hear the play calls and mentor Jameis Winston. Really class act guy, and we hope the best for him. While it is unfortunate for him, especially in his final year, the good thing is he will be back. He's not done for the season. And if anything, it kind of gives the Saints a little bit of, I don't want to say, in terms of this year, it almost helps them a bit because it's going to, as long as they play this right and they don't rush Drew Brees back, it's going to put them in a situation where they have, because remember, Drew Brees is old. He's in his 40s. And when you're in your 40s, it's hard to be able to make it through a 16-game season and through a big playoff run. It's tough, all right? In the last couple years, why have the Saints lost early in the playoffs? They haven't been able to win a game because Drew Brees has gotten worse as he went through the season. His arms started to get tired, wasn't able to throw the ball down the field a lot. This is going to give him some time to rest, and as long as he has time to rest and come back fully healthy, which that's what the Saints should do. They should not rush him back in whatever circumstance. This will help them out moving forward. And it also helps them out in the future, right? Because now they get a chance to see what they have at quarterback, all right? Again, Drew Brees is planning on retire this year. If maybe something changes, maybe he has a change of heart, but from what it seems like his wife, his kids, and him himself, they're all ready for him to retire. And he's going to get a job with Fox, do broadcasting, go on to do great things there. So we all believe that's going to happen. Of course, these are football players. They have egos. It's very hard for them to give up the game. So anything can change. But all signs are pointing to that way. So if that is the case, well, the Saints become in a predicament where what's our future? We still have a very good defense. We still have one of the best receivers in the league when healthy in Michael Thomas. A great running back in Alvin Kamara, who, by the way, has just been tremendous. Remember when during this offseason when there was a lot of talk about him wanting a big pay raise and the Saints might trade him because of that, because they're in such cap issues? And I was sitting there as a Falcons fan like, please screw this up, New Orleans. Please trade this guy away. But they were smart. They paid him, and if they did not have Alvin Kamara on this team, because of the amount of time that Michael Thomas has missed this year, because of the way Drew Brees has looked older and older throughout the season, they probably would not be a winning record team. I mean, Alvin Kamara has done everything for them. Everything. He is such a dynamic running back. He's so hard to tackle. He's worth every single bit of the money he got this offseason. So the Saints were smart to actually sign him up and not trade him, which would have been a very dumb move, kind of looking like the Bill O'Brien, DeAndre Hopkins type of move. But luckily for them, they didn't go down that road. So now that they're here in this situation, it gives them the chance to say, okay, we still have a good defense. We still have a good wide receiver, good running back moving forward. but what's our quarterback situation, right? Because we all know that's the most important position on a team in the NFL. Look at the Bears. Look at the freaking Bears. The Bears have one of the best defenses in the entire league. They have their defense scoring touchdowns, special teams scoring touchdowns, and they still can't win the game because their quarterback play is atrocious. So quarterback play is everything. So the Saints don't know what their future is, right? And again, a lot of people, oh, it's Taysom Hill. It's not Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. The Saints know that, I know that, and you guys should know that too, all right? Because they would not go out and sign Teddy 1 year, Jameis the next year, if they had full faith in Taysom Hill. And if everyone wants to say, oh, well, they signed him because it's more of an insurance policy. What if they get hurt? Okay, well, if that's the case, then why didn't Taysom Hill beat out Teddy Bridgewater last year when Drew Brees went down? No, Teddy beat out Taysom. Why didn't Taysom beat out Jameis this year? No, Jameis is going to beat out Taysom. Okay? And that's just, and this is no knock on Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is special. He does things that not many people in this league can do. But that's why he's special, because he does them in spurts, in small spurts. And that's what makes it special. All right? So it's kind of like this. There's a place, and if anyone's in North Carolina, they will know about it. It's called Goodberry's. It's amazing ice cream. They call it frozen custard. It's some of the best ice cream I've ever had. And I'm addicted to it. I love it. But I can only eat it every so often. I can't go and get it every single night. It's so special. You know, it's a great taste. It's different ice cream, but it's so good. But the fact that I only get it every so often makes it even more special. If I start to go get it every single night, it changes the luster of it. It changes the way I feel about it, all right? That's just how it is, okay? So that's the same thing with Taysom here. You start to catch on what they do that makes it so good, and it kind of throws it off a little bit. Now, when you look at the Saints, they now get a chance to say, okay, what is Jameis Winston? Is he someone that is just always going to be a super interception machine, you know, throwing out interceptions like he's a Pez machine, or is he someone that I can fix? I as in Sean Payton. Because that's what Sean Payton's thinking was when he signed him this offseason. His thinking was, let's see what we can do. We did it with Teddy Bridgewater. Now, Teddy Bridgewater was in a completely different situation than Jameis. If you guys remember, Teddy was a starting quarterback that led his Vikings to the playoffs. He was on the rise. He was a young quarterback that was really on the rise in this league. And then he had that catastrophic leg injury where it set him back, obviously. You know, many people didn't know if he was ever going to play again. So he was in a situation where he had to prove it. And he did prove it, and now he's doing a great job with the Carolina Panthers right now, too. I'm really impressed with what Teddy's been doing with the Panthers and Matt Rule and all them. So, you know, that was a situation where Sean Payton helped Teddy out, but it's not this. You know, this is a situation where Jameis has a terrible reputation of not being able to protect the football. And I tell you what, every single coach, even Bruce Arians, the most frustrating thing for a coach is turning the football over and putting their defense in a bad situation. It's terrible. It's the last thing you want from your quarterback. Okay? So now the Saints and Sean Payton get a chance to see who Jameis Winston is. All right? And now whether it's, you know, for 2 weeks or 4 months or 6 weeks, you know, you've heard all these varying lengths of time that this injury for Drew Brees could go on. But this gives Jameis time to parlay that same opportunity that Teddy had. That opportunity might be where he goes and gets a contract with someone else, or he stays with the New Orleans Saints because what we just talked about with Drew Brees most likely retiring next year. But now, let's think about it this way. Let's say Drew Brees doesn't get hurt and he plays all season. So he's playing all season. You don't ever get to see Jameis on the field, right? And you're watching what Jameis can do in practice. That's how you're judging him. And he's doing that weird freaking end zone hip thrust thing that he always does. And that he's done lately, I guess, and he's performing, on the practice field. That's where you see Jameis perform all season, from the practice field. So all your so-called answers on him, yeah, maybe they are answered, but in practice. So how much can you really tell from practice? You're not out there going live in a game format, in a game where you're playing against other opponents. So you're really trying to piece together to get that answer that could either bridge your organization forward for the next, 6-7 years, or could lead you to making the wrong move and put your franchise, your organization back. And what I mean by that is, let's say Brees played every game this year, and there's 2 teams next year that come and say, you know what? I know Jameis Winston didn't play much this year at all for the Saints, but we believe in his talent, and we believe that, a year under Sean Payton made him better. Sean Payton, super smart coach, offensive genius. Also, he was in the room with Brees for a year, so I bet that made him better too. Yeah. I bet that really made him better. So, you know what? We want to offer Jameis, let's say, 3 years, $90 million. I mean, that's not too crazy to think could happen, right? I mean, I highly doubt it does. But let's just say it does happen. At least if that happens, now the Saints will have an answer. They will have an answer to whether they can say, yeah, take him. Walk away, Jameis. We're good. Or say, you know what? We're going to match that offer. We'll give you a little bit of raise because you proved it to us that under the right coaching, you can limit your turnovers. And you can help us out. You can maybe be the QB of the future for this organization. Right? So that is huge for the Saints to be able to get that answer. Now, this is my favorite part. This is my favorite part. This is the most intriguing part. Let's look at it from this lens. Because that's from the organizational side of things, right? That's from the New Orleans Saints as a whole side of things. Let's look at it from Jameis Winston side of things. What does this mean for Jameis? This is a very pivotal point in Jameis Winston's career. I don't want to sound hyperbolic here, but this moment could tell us whether Jameis could ever be an NFL starter again, or if he's going to be a career backup. I don't mean to over-exaggerate here, but that is the case. Think about it. Think about this. We have already seen Jameis. We've already seen the worst side of Jameis, but that was one situation. 2 different head coaches, though. Remember, he first had Dirk Cutter his first couple years. He actually first had Lovie Smith his first year, and that was the best season he had as a rookie under Lovie Smith. Then for some reason they fired Lovie Smith and promoted Dirk Cutter, the offensive coordinator, which I can tell you right now was an awful decision because Dirk Cutter is the Falcons' offensive coordinator right now, and he's tough. He's tough to watch. Let's just put it that way. But Jameis Winston had Dirk Cutter, didn't work out. They didn't go bring in Bruce Arians because they say, okay, this guy has talent. Bruce Arians is known as a quarterback whisperer, whatever you want to say. Let's see if he can bring it out of him. Let's see if he can take all that talent and really bring it out of him. So now, and that didn't work out, right? He threw 30 interceptions, 30 touchdowns in the season. Only quarterback ever to do that. And then he gets on the open market. Nobody signs him but the Saints to $1 million contract. Talking about a former first-round pick in 2014, not that long ago. So now it's not that he goes to just any organization or any head coach. No. He goes to the New Orleans Saints with a head coach in Sean Payton that has been known around the league as one of the best offensive minds in the last decade plus. And yes, Bruce Arians' name has that same type of connotation to it, but Bruce is also known, as we mentioned earlier in this segment, to be a risk play caller as well. The whole no risk it, no biscuit mentality. So while we all thought, okay, maybe Bruce can take that raw talent and bring some out, which he did. Jameis threw 30 touchdowns. 30 touchdowns is impressive. He led the league in yardage, passing yards. So he definitely pulled that, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans had career years as receivers. So he was slinging it all over the place thanks to Bruce, but he also was a turnover nightmare. Can't throw 30 interceptions and expect to win multiple games. It's just not happening, right? So we saw it from that angle. Now, Sean Payton is the opposite. He's an offensive genius as well, but he does it a different way. So if Jameis let's say, show that he is the exact same player, comes out, shows a lot of talent, but also puts his defense in the terrible situation because he keeps throwing interceptions. He shows that he was the exact same player that he was in Tampa. As in, he shows a lot of raw talent, but still turns the ball over way too much. Puts the defense in terrible situations. Now, not only has he done that under Bruce Arians, but now he is doing it under Sean Payton as well. What other coaches in the NFL are going to sit there and say, well, damn, so you're telling me that he's had Bruce Arians, known as the quarterback whisperer and one of the greatest offensive coaches the league has seen, and he's had Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning coach, a guy that was known to bring out the best of Drew Brees and turn him into a Hall of Famer. Really a just smart offensive play caller. He's had both of those guys, and he still hasn't been able to eradicate his turnovers? And he's still playing this type of way? I'm sorry, but I'm not going to take a chance on him. I'll bring him in as a backup because he has that raw talent where if my quarterback goes out for a couple games, he can come in and maybe win us a game or two, go on a hot streak. But at the end of the day, he's always going to revert back to Mr. Turnover. Almost like a worse version of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Really. Ryan Fitzpatrick can sling it all over the place. One day he can give you 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The next day he can give you 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. It's crazy. Is Jameis that person? Now, too early to tell. We saw it for 5 years in Tampa. He never got better. He got worse. But now he's under a whole different regime, a whole different coaching staff, a coaching staff that has a lot of cachet around the league. And he has 2 ways he can go here. He can either show that he's able to limit those turnovers to the point where he is not costing his football team anymore. And he can say, look, right coaching, right situation, good team around me, I'm a legit starting QB in this league. You see it right here. Or he's going to go to 2 coaches, 2 offensive geniuses. The talent is there in Jameis's arm. The talent is there around him in the receivers. The talent is there on the defensive side of the ball. The talent is there in the coaching staff. But he just cannot limit those turnovers. And it's not worth it to us to pay him top dollar to be our starting quarterback. If you want to come on as a backup, we can do that. This is a huge moment for Jameis Winston's career, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot state that enough. This is everything for him. How's he going to perform? I'm telling you, it is fascinating to watch. It really is, because this is a guy that came out of, Florida State, won a national title game. He's a really good college player, but towards the end of his college career, we started to see lots of interceptions, right? He won the national title game. The next year, he gets him back to the college football playoff. It was the first ever college football playoff. They got boat raced by Marcus Mariota and Oregon in the semifinals, and he was throwing picks left and right all season. But Tampa still took him number 1 because of that raw talent. He has the raw talent. It's there. There's no doubt about it. but he's reckless with the football. And the worst thing that coaches want to, the thing that coaches cannot deal with, it's going to pull their hair out, make them go bald, and they won't be able to sleep at night, is that they have a quarterback that is shooting their team in the foot. This is the NFL. It is too good of every team. Every team is too talented to have a quarterback that puts them in bad situations. That is why the quarterback position has become so vital and has continually gotten evolved and gotten better as the years have gone. That's why we give these quarterbacks like barely any time to develop. It's be good right now or get out. And Jameis is lucky enough where he's getting a second chance. It looked like after that last year in Tampa and this offseason when nobody wanted it, looked like, oh great, he might be done. He got a second chance. He took a massive pay cut to do it. Now it's his time to shine. What are you going to do, Mr. Winston? What are you going to do, Mr. Eat Your W's? What are you going to do, Mr. Crab Legs? I cannot wait to find out as he begins his defense trial. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it begins this weekend against my Atlanta Falcons. Jameis Winston, the jury is listening. The people are watching. Are you going to be able to do it? Let's sit back and let's find out. The floor is yours, Mr. Winston. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. I'm telling you, it really helps us out. I want to thank all of you guys that participated in the poll, answering of solo dolo or no more solo dolo. Even though I didn't get the answer I wanted, I appreciate it. You guys are the best. Also, if you can, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you. Have a great night. We did not get into everything that we were going to talk about today. It was a busy show. Stay tuned for Saturday. We'll talk about the NFC playoff race because we didn't get to talk about that. We talked about the AFC. We'll talk about the NFC, and we'll talk about the big-time matchups coming up on Sunday, as well as break down the massive matchup this Thursday night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy that Thursday night matchup. We'll talk to you again over the weekend.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.